I decided that going on this pace wasn't sustainable because I started to suffer the effects of it all. You couldn't keep that.
Describe the effects you suffered.
Oh, I was fatigued all the time. I would wake up tired. You'd go to bed, get supposedly a good night rest. I was fatigued all the time. I was feeling a lackluster sense of unfulfillment. I didn't feel settled. I felt like I had something else that I was supposed to be doing. Even though I was busy, I wasn't fulfilled. I knew that there was more underneath the surface, and I also started to feel very down and became very depressed. I started eating. I started gaining weight. This wasn't the life that I had envisioned for myself at all.
Welcome to the Doctor's Mentor Show. If you believe that medicine is an industry and not a profession, if you enjoy submitting complex reimbursement claims, or you would do another residency just for fun, be advised, you're about to be offended. You should probably leave now.
All this talk about mentoring doctors is ridiculous. I thought doctors learned to do everything better than everyone else the first year of medical school. At least that's the way they act.
If you love assisting patients with vitality breakthroughs, if the right to practice medicine without interference is important, and you want expert tips for practice freedom and profits to support your epic life, welcome aboard and prepare to be blown away. The Doctor's Mentor Show starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Lori Barr.
Today's show comes under the category of
Live.
What do you do when it's never quite perfect? A lot of doctors fall into that trap of thinking everything has to be just so before you can move forward. And that means what? It means you never move. So today I have a guest for you who is going to help you overcome your perfectionism. Stay tuned.
Today's guest.
It is my pleasure to introduce you to an amazing lady who I met last spring. Her name is Dr. Toni Haleys, and she is a board-certified family practitioner, and she is also, more importantly, a wife and a lifestyle coach. And this is kind of an interesting mix for a physician and not one that every physician chooses to do. So there has to be a story behind it. And when I dug a little deeper, Dr. Toni's story is so compelling. I just know you're going to love what she has to share. Dr. Toni, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's great to see you again. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation to share this wonderful story with everyone so that they can get past that block.
What happened that you knew you had to make a change?
I am used to being a high performer and an achiever. Raise your hand. That's probably your entire audience. We all identify with each other all our lives. Going, lots of activities, lots of schedules, running all our lives from childhood on. You're a part of every team. You're the leader. You have positions. This is what we live for. This is how we are. We don't know anything else. Every summer you're in a program. You're signing up with permission slips. It's a flurry of activity all your life. And that was not unusual. That's how it was for everyone in my circle. And so we just keep going. But there's usually an underlying story, like you said, that makes us this way or drives us this way. And in my case, it was mainly just a loss. Things were going well in my life, and then they weren't. All of a sudden, there was a major tragedy in my family. And they called my dad and told him, hey, you need to come down to the hospital. Your family's been in an accident. Your daughter and your wife have been in a terrible accident, and you need to come down to the hospital immediately. I can only imagine how he felt at that time, but he was a young man just starting out and, doing well for himself, or so he thought. And when he got to the hospital, they informed him, your daughter is the sole survivor of the accident. My dad was in his 20s. I was a young girl. It was devastating to our little family, and it was a major turning point for me personally, because although I'd always been a go kind of person, this was the only way I could kind of have freedom after that, because my dad would not like for me to be out of his sight or in a motor vehicle with someone or transported by other people. So I became this person who was even more so go, 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 because it was the only way to get out of the house. Permission slips.
Okay, so wait, let me back up here. Now, how old were you when the accident happened, Dr. Toni?
The accident happened at 3 years old, but the problem became more progressive.
Oh, sure. Because, your father wanted to protect you. And are you an only child?
I am.
So as an only child, you're aiming to please, especially your father figure, and especially in the loss of your mother. So a lot of transferred emotions there between the two of you. And that can be healthy and can also easily swing into not being so healthy as relationships go. And then you grow up to be this beautiful woman. And when you start looking for love in your life, then all of a sudden there's this whole transference issue again. So that's very interesting. That is a very interesting story about how the impact of something when you're so young can influence your life for the whole rest of it. And so then what happened? How did you decide to do more than just become a doctor?
I decided that going on this pace wasn't sustainable because I started to suffer the effects of it all. You couldn't keep that.
Describe the effects you suffered.
Oh, I was fatigued all the time. I would wake up tired. You'd go to bed, get supposedly a good night rest. I was fatigued all the time. I was feeling a lackluster sense of unfulfillment. I didn't feel settled. I felt like I had something else that I was supposed to be doing. Even though I was busy, I wasn't fulfilled. I knew that there was more underneath the surface, and I also started to feel very down and became very depressed. I started eating. I started gaining weight. This wasn't the life that I had envisioned for myself at all.
So, and the reason why I bring this up is many of you out there who are listening may recognize some little glimmer of yourself in what she's saying, because perfectionism, when you're in it, it feels right because you're trying to be perfect and you're perfect most of the time. Well, here's the secret about perfectionism. The truth is you are perfect all of the time. You're having a perfect experience all the time. And if you simply let go and enjoy the perfectness of you in the moment, it makes it so much easier. And I know that Dr. Toni is going to tell us about this book she has written that is designed to remind you of just that. It's called Reprogram Your Mindset. And Dr. Toni, what brilliant thing inspired you to put this all together and tell people about how the book can help them?
It was my clients. I had transitioned over to being a coach because people just kept inboxing me. People were so inspired by the fact that I could have all these tragedies, losses, and failures in my life. They're in the book, don't worry. And they said, well, how did you do it? How did you overcome it? How did you go from this dark place to the place of light and joy and freedom and excitement about every day, waking up without an alarm? How do you do that, right? So I decided to write a book for all those people who had come to me, who had become clients, or who kept asking me questions.
How did you transition from the dark place to the light?
I had to actually coach myself. I diagnosed myself is what I did. I said, wait a minute, this isn't you. This isn't the cheerleader, the high energy person, the one who was always the go-to for everything, who gets it right. So you've got to do better. So I gave myself some major self-talk, pep talks, wrote down what I felt like I wanted out of life and what I wanted to feel like. And in that process, I affirmed myself. I said, you know what? I've got to get a system that every day when I wake up, I have to affirm myself. I have to approach those things that are difficult, things that I fear, things that I worry about at night, things that cause me insomnia. And I would just make lists of things I knew I needed to approach and attack instead of hide from them.
Awesome. So again, what I hear is you went from a period of being the Energizer Bunny, basically, to being in this place where you could barely recognize yourself anymore, but then you did, and you reminded yourself, and this is a really important lesson, is that inside yourself is the most important coach, advisor, mentor you will ever find. And actually what Dr. Toni's gift to us is, in this book, is an everyday reminder of that and a system to be able to bring that out of yourself, which is your subconscious mind loves you more than anything. Even when you consciously have forgotten to love yourself, your subconscious mind wants to hear you. It wants you to write love letters to it. It wants you to be there for it. And when you're reminded of that and have a system where you can daily write affirmations or just say them or listen to them, it makes a huge difference. So what kind of difference have you seen in your clients?
They actually were giving me what I should put in the book. So they haven't necessarily gotten to experience it just yet directly, but indirectly, they told me, hey, here's what all of us high performers and doctors, we struggle with this stuff. And they have come into the light too. So when they write about their experiences, it's all about joy. It's all about finding themselves. It's all about the excitement of finding, it's like rediscovering yourself again.
Okay, so before you can reprogram, you have to rediscover. Is that accurate?
You have to have a little bit of a tough talk with yourself, I think. You have to say, now, on the surface, people think you're doing great, and you are, but you could do better. All of us can. We could balance better. We could time manage better. So the benefits that they're getting are those sorts of things. They feel more in control again. They used to have more of a fixed mindset, where in the fixed mindset, I know Carol Dweck is a psychologist out of Stanford that talks about fixed versus growth mindset. In a fixed mindset, we feel like things happen to us. We don't take criticism well. We're always very hard on ourselves. We feel defeated when things don't go well. But when you're in a growth mindset, when you have taken control and sat down and really assessed where you are and what you'd like to do better, you can learn again. You know that it's not a reflection of your intellect.
One of my major mentors in my life, Mr. Bob Proctor, always said that the current results you're getting simply reflect the thoughts you've had up to this point in time. And that, is really the point you're making here too. And this whole having the come to Jesus talk with yourself, that's really what it is. It's especially if you're a perfectionist, you have perfected your facade. And that might be a doctor facade. It might be the perfect mom facade. It might be the sexy wife facade. It might be the I'm in control of my body. I'm a bodybuilder facade. Any of these, if you're a perfectionist, you got it down. And sometimes it's okay and easy to move into recognizing that and facing that yourself. And sometimes it does take an outside influence to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you're going back toward perfectionism again. So have you had times where you've stumbled back and found yourself in perfectionism? And if so, how did you recognize that?
One of the best things I could do for myself was pick people. I surrounded myself with people who could call me out. I hired coaches, first of all. I hired coaches. I made sure that they were where I wanted to be, or they could help me in areas to just grow. Really, it's all about growing and learning. That's the point of that growth kind of mindset. We're reaching for something, and it doesn't need to be perfectionism. It could just be learning a new skill. So when I would hire coaches or ask my friends, hold me to it, that was my approach.
And that's what I do too. I'm a reformed perfectionist as well. And absolutely, I still, to this day, even though I have had lots of coaches over the years in my career, I have a coach. And she calls me out, and I tailor the coach to what's happening in my life. I mean, I've been practicing medicine for almost 30 years now, and transitions are coming. Yeah, I'm an only child, just like you. My parents are older. And so trying to decide, how do I become the adult daughter of aging parents and do that well without thinking it has to look a certain way? Just like you were talking about that fixed mindset. So, the coach that I have currently is really all about, let's make sure financially you've got your P's and Q's in a row, you're debt free, you've got money saved up, you've got more flexibility when you don't have all these things hanging over. And I was just reviewing what I accomplished with the assistance of my coach right now. I've totally become debt free again. I totally have been able to set up a system where I can assist my parents, yet not make them feel like they're prisoners or like they're giving up any of their dignity. So it's really been helpful for me. Tell me about the kind of coaches that have helped you, the kind of mentors that you've sought out, and how they've been helpful at different stages in your growth process.
As a child, one of the most important mentors I had came at a crucial time. She was my pre-college mentor. And so, my parents were my father was saying, hey, I want you, I have a stepmother. She's wonderful, by the way. But they were interested in getting me into a pre-college mentoring program. She recognized the dynamics of my father and I and the perfectionism. So she took me under her wing, took me over to the side and said, listen, I get it. Let me see what I can do to help you get where you want to go. And she believed me when I said I wanted to be a doctor. So that was a huge step for me. She said, let's go get you in the amphitheater over there at the hospital so you can see open heart surgery. I was 13 years old. She was the first person who really just heard me, understood the situation, and said, I'm a trusted person. She can come with me. And my father agreed. So that helped.
That's awesome. Those exposures when we're young to things we think we might want to do, that really is key in helping us make those decisions, because that makes such a big impression in life. One of my other mentors, Mike Koenigs, likes to say that we write the book we need ourselves. How did you change as you wrote your book?
As I was writing, I was talking to various stages of myself. The pre-professional phase of myself. Hey, if I could talk to myself, then what would I do? So I have some talking to my old self in there. Then I changed into this person who was leading other people, and a lot at one time, who were all perfectionists. So I started to say, well, my gosh, you did master that part. So focus on these areas where you're focusing forward and hiring coaches to work on some areas for yourself so that when they get to this stage, they too can move forward and have that in the book, all in one book. The old you, the right now you, and and by the way, even though you've done great, here's about 4 more things, maybe 20, that you might want to focus on as you move forward.
So how many affirmations are in the book total? I haven't counted them yet with my copy.
100.
Whoa. Well, that's like almost a third of the year. That's awesome.
We're busy people. We're busy, and I don't want to say we don't have time, but I want to say that the way it's written, I wrote it for myself. Sometimes you just need a little snippet. Sometimes you just need to get that one thing for the day. You have a big presentation, a grand rounds. So you open it up to that area where you just need that today. So it doesn't have to be done in order.
That's great. And, it's interesting because when we face a stressful situation, something that brings up fear in us, then your subconscious mind pulls out the way it solved that problem in the past, and it brings you that solution, and it says, oh, wow, well, here's how you deal with that. You go back to how you lived through that accident that killed your mother and left you abandoned. And most importantly, what you do with that affirmation to your old self is you say, no, this is not that. This is different from that. So yes, I acknowledge that I had this trauma and that helped in that situation. And yet now I'm ready to do this instead. And that's awesome that you've been able to separate it out that way so that people can learn the tools they can use when the old self is coming out and kind of imposing itself on, on who you are now. And that you recognize that just because you are successful, our success is only capped by what we can imagine. So it's great to be able to stretch that the way you have with these ones for the future. It's just amazing. If someone wanted to really get the most out of your book, what would you recommend they do?
Number one, know that there's one thing that I have found helps people every day. It's gratitude. Every day. Every day, when you wake up, when you plant your feet in the carpet, I outlived my mother by many, many years now. I have that to hold on to remind myself, wait a minute, you're doing great in this life because you're above ground. Yay. You have your health. Yay. And I do have a wonderful relationship with my father, by the way, now. So I just want to say that if we all just count our blessings as we fall asleep or as we wake up, if we all did that, that would be a great start. And of course, gratitude's in there. But that would be my number one thing that is a tip for you.
So if people want to get your book, where do they go, Dr. Toni?
They go to drtonisbook.com. Tonis book.com. drtonisbook.com. I made it easy.
That is really easy. And where can they find more out about you?
www.drtonimd.com. That's drtonimd.com. And more importantly, stop procrastinating. Take action now. I'm a coach. That's your job, to follow through. So go follow me in the Winner's Circle, where you can get support at drtonimdvip.com, so that you can get that next step with me, with friends in the same space.
And that is her amazing Facebook community that she's building. And I tell you, I've seen Dr. Toni in action in there. I follow Dr. Toni. She is amazing the way she encourages people. She's always right there, still being the cheerleader that she was when she was little. And Dr. Toni, you're just so fun to play with. Thank you for coming on and bringing your energy to everybody out there who might be struggling with perfectionism and procrastination. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate everything that you're doing for all of us. Thank you so much for the invitation. Take care.
Your next step.
Take this amazing information from Dr. Toni and start looking at ways you can remind yourself of how to keep the past in the past, keep the present something you're totally grateful for, and plant seeds for the future, so that you can move in that direction where you want to be, where you want to find yourself, knowing that it doesn't have to come a certain way. It can come all kinds of ways. So that's your next step, and join Dr. Toni in the Winner's Circle.
There's more to explore at thedoctorsmentor.com.
Are you stopping at a hospital? Hello? Don't you know that hospitals are one of the sickest places on the planet? Don't touch anything in there and get out as fast as you can.